because there's really a synchronicity between letting go of stuff out there and then what happens in here, or letting go of something in here and then watching it out there. And I swear to God, this is a true story. In 1989, I did that. I've told this story before. I went and cleaned out my closet. I was living in Salt Lake City, Utah, and it was a big mess. And I remember hearing that my life would change if I cleaned my closet out. And I went and cleaned it out, and that day, my husband walked in and asked for a divorce. And he was out of my life. Now, what was really weird is I didn't, I would have never asked for the divorce, but it actually turned out really well. See, and then you said something new comes in, right? We clear out, and then something new, the energy of something new comes in, and then, so a new person walked in my life after that. So, this is good stuff. It really is. It's because we're energy beings. This is all about energy. And that's how I really wanted to start this talk, is to say, wow, we forget how incredibly blessed that we are to have. Judy mentioned it in her meditation that was so beautiful. It's like this incredible energy field is all around us, and that we are that energy of life, manifested out as each person. But we are the energy of life itself, and it's such a blessing that the more that we can tune into that, right? The more that we can clear out the clutter in our minds and tune into this energy of God, the more that we feel God. When I say God, I'm talking about feel love, right? And feel the compassion and the passion itself for life. And we can't do that when we have this mental clutter and all this stuff, going on in our head. Until finally, the more that we refine ourselves and the more that we clear out that clutter, we start to live God, right? And I really mean that. We start to become lighter and lighter until, like, God lives through us. This divine love lives through us. And I just love that, because this precious energy, is so incredibly beautiful, and you feel it. All of us feel it at different times in our life. And I think how much we rob ourselves of this feeling, of this God self that we have. We rob ourselves with our clutter of our minds, what we're thinking, all of our expectations for people, all of the little irritations that go on, the bad feelings about somebody. They are such a waste of our precious energy, our God energy that we were blessed to have. So this week, I always kind of think about what the talk is about, and it's interesting how synchronicities start to happen, kind of like what you were talking about at the, your song came to you when you were at the park. So I was actually cleaning out my closets and stuff and doing some different things that were happening, and then, I talked to Judy, and I was asking her about a certain date, and she sends back an email and saying there had been this, death in her family, and it's like, wow, it was like, that blew me away. It was like, 1 minute there's a life, and the next minute it's gone, right? It wasn't a long death. And then after that I was kind of sitting with that feeling for a while. I went, wow, life is so precious, and it's so short, and it's just so weird. And then I was taking a walk. These 3 things happened to me to, kind of bring them together. But I was walking with my daughter, and we were down walking on this sidewalk, and there was this little thing moving. It looked like it was dead. It's on its back, and its little feet and arms were kind of struggling. And I thought it was a rat or something, and I didn't know what to do anyway. And so I'm thinking, what do we do with it, And she picks it up and she says, what do you mean, It still has life. That life energy is in it, And I'm ready to kind of walk on, not knowing really what to do. She's so compassionate. She grabs the little thing and she takes it back home, and the kids gather around it, and they went to a vet. They took this little thing to the vet, and the vet says that it's a bunny. It's a little bunny. I didn't know what it was, right? They took pictures, they were looking. So they got a little syringe, right? They went and got something at Petco, and all day long they fed it, they loved it, they sent it energy. It was really a beautiful thing. Well, last night it died, and the kids were really upset this morning. And so that's been on my mind, right? Along with what Judy went through, and then this little thing. And then the third thing, I was yesterday, late afternoon, going through my drawers and cleaning up, I was actually looking for something. I was looking for a CD that I couldn't find. And I came across something that it's like I cried for about an hour after this because it just touched my heart, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm feeling, and maybe I'll explain it. I'm kind of just explaining it to you, and maybe I'll be able to get it as I talk about it. But there was this little piece of paper, right? It's a little piece of paper, and I hadn't seen this for, wow, years, probably, 30 years or something. It's been kind of packed in an old box, and I'm not even sure I brought it out, remembered it hardly. But it's a telegram. Anybody even remember telegrams? You guys, I mean, it's funny. It's from the United Stork Express, and it's my mom's. My grandma sent it to her grandma about my mom's birth, right? So it was written in 1920, and it's a telegram, and it says, on the telegram it says, she's as good as she can be, black hair and blue eyes, and we love her, right? And so I'm thinking, that was my mom, 1920, this little thing. Something that I was feeling. Okay, so in that box, there's this little note. And the note is what she wrote that week she died. It's really weird. And the note said, remember me with love, Glenda. And right together, right, is 1920 to 2006, right? Her life, 90 some years. And so I'm putting these kind of things together. And I'm feeling all these feelings, and I'm thinking, life. It's like so precious, this life energy that was with her. 1920 to 2007, here's this dash in between. That was her life. One time I read a poem that talked about the dash in between is your life. Between the two dates of your beginning and your end. And then I got to thinking that little bunny, this little bunny here, was just a few hours long. What's the purpose there? I thought about, our day, and I thought about just, gone like this. And I'm thinking, wow, life is so precious. This life energy that we have is so precious that how can we, tie up our thoughts and our stuff with all of the clutter of expectations and of sadness and of all this stuff when there's so much beauty out there, when there's so much going on. How we have to look at ourselves. And after I saw this, I guess my whole point is that life is short. Life is even though it's 90 years, that's short, right? It's a blip. 100 years is a blip in life. And, we are robbing ourselves of life, right? We're robbing ourselves of the life energy that God gave us by concentrating on things that aren't even important to us. And I say that because I'll tell you, I just had another thing that happened with my brother and my Audie, who is my son-in-law, his father. They lived together. They got in this big old fight, and they called me because they were in a fight about a property line, right? And so I'm going, wow, right after all this happened, how can that happen? How can we fight about little things, when we have so much beauty? I look outside and I'm seeing, all of the beautiful birds and the hawks that are flying by in this beautiful Orange County. We're here, and here we are. Here we are fighting, they are, not us, fighting, about what's going on. So I ask you kind of to think, in your mind, what is it that clutters your mind? And there's so much that does it because we live in a real, busy time. It's a busy time. There's a lot to think about. But the biggest thing that I want to talk about is about regret, you guys, about your regrets. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, you all have regrets. And those regrets are the things that are toxic to us. So I looked up regret, and it's a negative, conscious, and emotional reaction to personal past acts and behaviors. Regret is often a feeling of sadness, of shame, of embarrassment, depression, annoyance, or guilt. After one act in a manner, and after somebody acts in that manner, and they later wish that they hadn't done so. So I want you to look at the regrets in your life, because the regrets are what sucks the life energy out of us. And the life energy is God, so it's sucking the God out of us. Does that make sense? It's sucking the divine right out of you when you live in regret of what I should have done. Why didn't I do it? It stops the energy flow. We are energy beings, and when we get stuck in our heads, you know what? It stops. It creates these blocks within us. It creates blocks within us. See, there are so many there's tons of major regrets in life. I've been reading books on the 5 major regrets of people who are dying, and the one major one I want to talk about is, why didn't I let my life be happier? Why didn't I let my life be happier? And so see, we're still alive, right? We're on this side. We can let our life be happier if we make that intention, you guys. We we can choose to do that. We all have regrets, right? About something we didn't do, something we did do, something we said that we shouldn't have said. You know, we all do that. But Marianne Williamson says we gotta face our regrets because it frees us to move ahead for new growth. Just kind of what you were talking about. You know, it's the same thing. It frees us, whether it's stuff or whether it's, you know, mental stuff. It frees us to be a new person. So if you're living in past regrets about what you did or what should have been, you know, you're wasting your time. You know, clear that energy so that you can move forward to create a new you. You know, that's what this kind of Evolve series is about. It's about creating a new you. You know, actually that's not true because you are perfect the way you are, but it's clearing out what you have to clear out so that you can be who you really are, right? Because who you are is the energy of God. You are the energy. You know, here's what I know is that there's a saying that David Rico, and I wrote this years ago down in a journal that I had, and then it's so good. He says, my mind may shoot arrows of regret at me, but I'm using them to open my heart, not to wound it, right? So you don't let those arrows of regret wound you. You let them open your heart. Don't let the arrows of your mental clutter wound you. Let them open your heart with love and forgiveness. So you have to look at the situation. You have to face it. What's going on in your life? What do you regret? And everybody here can tell me a regret. You know, I made a whole list of them. I didn't think they were regrets, but I went back in my life, you know, and I looked like, you know, starting as a little girl, things I would have done differently and all this. And then I looked back and I said, you know what? I did the best I could. I did the best I could for what I knew. You know, I did one particularly stupid thing that kind of put my family in jeopardy, and what happened is I ended up being stopped for 10 years because of that, right? And I had some regrets about that. And then I looked at that. I looked at that energy around it, and I realized that that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't be as strong as I am now. I wouldn't be compassionate. I had to face the court system. You know, I talked to somebody else who had been something similar to something like that. I learned from that. I loved from that. I forgave from that. Whatever it is that you went through, you know, don't look at it as a regret. What did you learn from it, you know? Bless all your regrets, right? When they're talking to you, because you'll feel it when they start to talk to you. You just let it come, and you remember the goodness of it. You know, it can happen. So what am I talking about? Loving yourself, you guys. Embracing your humanity. That's what I talk about every time, because we can't express our divine, we can't express our God until we embrace who we are. Biggest message you'll ever get. Love yourself, embrace yourself. You know, I mean that dash in between, that's a beautiful poem, by the way, if you ever see it. It's called The Dash. And that's what it's about. It's about, look at your life. Look, the first, when you're born to the last date, boy, you're living the dash. You know, you're living the dash. We are so much more than the stuff that happens to us. We're so much more than the stuff that happens to us. Eckhart Tolle says that, he's got a quote that I love. He says, Tolle says there's that which happens and that in which it happens. That's kind of a deep quote. There's that which happens and that in which it happens. You are that in which it happens. You are a field of love. You are a field of loving energy. Just kind of tighten a little body right now, but you're more than the little body. We're an ego self, and then we're this big, incredible, beautiful, you know, loving energy. And when we start to identify with the loving energy, everything is different in our life. We aren't that little ego, you know? Then we live our life. We live that dash, you know, to the glory of the divine. And that's what we're talking about here. You know, we live the life that we were meant to live. You were meant to express and to create a beautiful life. Every one of you were here to express and create something beautiful. Don't let clutter up here take it from you, rob you of your God-given right, of your birthright. That's what it is. You have a birthright. This love that has to move through each and every one of us. And you know, it touches my heart every time I look at you guys, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, each one of us manifests out and lives this life. Are we living it to the highest? You know, are we living it to the best of our ability? You know, we're going to fall down, we're going to get up and shake ourselves off. That's a song, isn't it? And we're going to, you know, get through it. I guess that's what I'm saying. We're going to get through life, but it's more than getting through life. It's more than just surviving, isn't it? We don't don't want to just survive this life. We want to thrive. And every single moment we can thrive if we can let go, if we can learn to let go. So, anyway, my prayer is that we know who we are. Well, you know, that we know our very own being, because once we know that, we know everything else, and nothing else matters, really. Nothing else matters but to know who you are, because when you know who you are, you know who each other is, you know who everybody else is, and everything else is just kind of, you know, on top. It's like you're the life, as Eckhart Tolle says. You're the life energy underneath the life situation. Your life situation isn't that important anymore, you know? Kind of sounds bad, doesn't it? But that's true. Your life, you're so much more. You're so much more than that. My prayer is know the miraculous gift of your life, the energy of life, and then go out and create the most beautiful life every moment that you can. Thank you. So we have come to the